You know that feeling when your mom compares you to that cousin who's doing way better than you? Yeah, that's how I feel when I watch these types of videos. If you've never watched them, here's how they go. Person A is 17 years old. Let's call him Bob. The thing is, Bob is the captain of a varsity sports team. He's also class president. He's published 3 researches. He secured an internship with Apple. He can play the piano with 1 foot. And on top of all this, he gets a top score in every single exam. So he goes to an Ivy League university. You see what I mean? At first glance, it seems like they're just special. They're naturally smart, so they don't have to spend as much time worrying about studying. But little did I know, this skill is actually learnable. Now, I'm not saying I'm at Bob's level yet. Just to be clear, I don't go to an Ivy League university. But to be honest, I think I've come quite far in this journey of effective learning. By trying out many different methods, I've learned how to reduce the time I spend studying so I can have more time to focus on other things. So in this video, I want to share the 3 things that have made the biggest difference for me. There was a study done in 1968 where they divided a classroom into 2 groups randomly. The first group was called the academic bloomers, and the teachers made sure that everyone knew that's what the group was called. The crazy thing is, after some time, the IQ of the students in the first group actually increased compared to their friends in the second normal group. Keep in mind that the bloomers group were selected at random, so everyone was at the same level in the beginning. Just by knowing that they belong in the bloomers group, their IQ has already increased. So the way you see yourself, the labels you put on yourself, that will 100% affect your results. If you think that you suck and you believe you're gonna fail the exam, then guess what? You're gonna fail. But if you believe that you are smart enough, that you have what it takes to get a top score, if you believe that you are a bloomer, the magic starts to happen. The next time you are struggling with a question, instead of giving up straight away, you fight on because you're a bloomer. The next time you get a question wrong, instead of feeling sad, you learn from it because you are a bloomer. So if I'm struggling with the topic and it seems impossible to understand, here's what I think to myself: I will master this topic just like all of the topics I've mastered before. Think of the stuff you learned 3 years ago. It probably seems very easy to you now, but I can bet you that 3 years ago, when you were in that position, you were struggling as hell. So just like this, 3 years from now, the topics that you're struggling with will become easy. This gives me motivation to push on because I know for a fact that I'm gonna master that topic. So in other words, you will become what you label yourself as. When I was a kid, I absolutely hated my arm because of how small it was. So what I did was every Friday, I would have a 1-hour session where I trained only my biceps. I did this for months and I had crazy discipline, but I still saw no results. The thing is, our bicep is a small muscle and it gets exhausted very quickly. So having a 1-hour bicep training session isn't the most effective thing you can do. So once I found that out, I started training biceps 3 times a week, 15 minutes per session. And sure enough, my arms grew rapidly. In the exact same way, having many study sessions can help you grow your knowledge rapidly too. And when I say many, I mean at least 10 or even 20 study sessions per day. How do I do this? The first thing you have to realize is that studying is just remembering information that you've almost forgotten. For example, when you're doing practice questions, as soon as you recall that information from the back of your head, you have just studied. Or for example, if your friend asks you, hey, what's the equation for photosynthesis? And it takes you a while to think and reply, guess what? You have just studied. So studying does not have to be done on your desk. As long as you think, as long as you recall, you have studied. And you can fully leverage this effect by thinking about what you have studied and connecting it with real life stuff. For example, if I'm on a train and it's very crowded and I'm getting pushed around, here's what I might think to myself: if only the volume of the train would increase so the pressure on me would decrease, just like Boyle's law. Speaking of ideal gases, here are 5 characteristics that all of them must have. So I can keep recalling the stuff I learned in physics, and the next time I see a question about ideal gases, I will immediately think back on my experience in the train and I will remember everything. Another way I think about what I learned is by watching my content. If you are someone who watches a lot of YouTube, the stuff you watch will shape who you are. Aim to watch edutainment videos, videos that get you thinking, videos that make you curious. It doesn't have to be the exact topic you're studying, but sometimes we subconsciously form connections, so it becomes another mini study session without you even knowing. People are 500% more effective when they are in a deep work state. So whenever I study, I am always in a deep work state. If I'm feeling tired and exhausted, instead of pushing myself to study for hours and barely gaining anything, I would rather use that time to rest. I use that time to rest and recharge so I can come back with full capacity. This has saved me a ton of time and headache. So deep work is something we've all experienced. But if you struggle to enter your deep work state, here are 4 things I like to do. If you're just reading a textbook or you're watching lectures, then that's pretty easy. It becomes boring and you will get distracted. On the other hand, if you start doing practice questions that are way above your level, you will get exhausted and you will feel distracted as well. So the key to entering a deep work state is to find the right amount of challenge for yourself. Find the right amount of challenge that keeps you hooked and curious. Do practice questions that are just a bit above your current level. And if you feel like you can't solve a question, it is completely okay to look at the answer and learn from it. I believe this is better than pushing yourself and gaining nothing but exhaustion. Go in with an objective. If you start doing practice questions without having an end goal, that means you could do it forever. And that feeling of having no end distracts you. So before you start, know how many questions you are gonna do, or even better, know what you're trying to achieve within that study session. If you are someone who procrastinates a lot, you might have heard of the 5-minute rule. This is where you tell yourself that you're gonna do the task for only 5 minutes. Once the 5 minutes are over, you are free to stop doing the task anytime you want. So this makes it supposedly easier to get started. But whenever I try out the 5-minute rule, I just end up watching the clock. So I'd wait for the 5 minutes to pass and not really do anything. So I feel like when it comes to studying, if you're struggling to get started, then the 3-question rule will suit you. Tell yourself that you will just do 3 questions and you are free to stop after that. What usually happens for me is after the 3rd question, I'll get a little glimpse of the 4th question and that keeps me hooked. I would feel like I want to solve that question too. I cannot deep work at night, and I know that, so I won't even attempt to study if it's nighttime. You must know which time doesn't work for you. What time do you work at your worst? When are you the most distracted? I always have my deep work sessions early in the morning because nothing is on my mind yet and it's easy to focus.